Today marks the 31st day since Cheyenne VA set up its Incident Command Center in response to COVID-19. How would you equate what we are going through as a nation?
I think what I have seen more as a nation is the pulling together and the support for each other and the positivity here as the family of the VA.
I don't know. I mean, I think to me we're still pretty optimistic. We're gearing up for the worst, hoping for the best, and hopefully we meet somewhere in the middle.
People are very stressed out and they're scared, and they're just trying not to catch it and make sure everyone they love stays healthy.
I think one of the greatest things coming from this, though, is it's bringing a lot of families together. People are spending more time at home with each other and spending time as a family.
I think this is a rough time for our country, and it's neat to see how people are pulling together and becoming one and not letting things separate us. We're fighting this as a team.
As I keep hearing over and over again, this is our first pandemic, so I don't think there's nothing
really
that I've experienced
that I
that's
can
been like this.
really compare it to, other than things I've read in history books in school and seen.
I can relate to 9/11. There's still a lot of uncertainties. We're still very much trying to see if or what we can do to help in the times right now.
It's not normal operations by any far, but it is very interesting to see that we had some forward thought and forward thinkers that were prepared for this.
I would probably equate this to Desert Storm. You know, getting everything, the logistics especially, getting everything in place to combat, you know, instead of war, this is kind of war against COVID-19.
You know, I think it's a really difficult time. This is something that we've really not experienced to this degree since like the early in the century 1918. I think that we're just doing the best we can do with everything.
Resources that are needed right now are scant. People are living with uncertainty and anxious anticipation, which can lead to mental health problems, relationship problems, and overall an absence of wellness.
I mean, obviously it's a shock to us, you know, it hit us pretty hard. It's scary. I mean, it's scary, but at the same time, we have to keep pressing on, you know. It's sort of like that herd of buffalo that has to get through those alligators, you know. You're just gonna lose some, but you gotta keep pressing on.
Right now, we're fighting a war with ourselves, to be honest with you. It's a virus out there, and we just have to keep practicing social distancing. And I mean, all the people we're fighting with is the people at the grocery stores.
I love how the VA has set up the non-fear schedule. People are not as afraid as from just getting it off the news. The nation is under an attack, and the VA has made its contingency plan, and we are counterattacking, I guess you would say. Not a lot of fear here with a lot of the people.
people are worried and afraid because they don't know who will be the next victim.
So I don't think I can think of anything in our history besides maybe the Great Depression that changed everyone's life, what they do every day, in such an unpredictable and substantial way. I can't think of anything. It's like a gigantic social experiment, which has some very dangerous sides to them, but also some very interesting sides.
There's nothing that I can actually compare this to because of the way that it's actually affecting me. For today, I have children that I'm concerned about. I have, my wife that I'm concerned about, and everybody within this facility that I have a responsibility to ensure that they're safe. These are definitely strange times. It's definitely a very important lesson to be learned for the future, for preparation, for something like this to occur again. But there's definitely not an event that I can equate this to ever.
This is hitting every state in the union and every walk of life. And every American is having to adjust, their life, their work, their daily habits, their hourly habits. It's pretty intense. It's the only time I've ever seen something like this.
The Cheyenne VA was the first in the state to begin screening every person upon entry of a facility. How have things changed over the past month?
Well, obviously when we first started screening, we were doing a lot of that inside, and we established the tents outside, established the respiratory area outside, so that we could keep people that potentially were infectious outside, and also to make sure that our employees that were coming in were taken care of, were safe.
We just continue to escalate that and ensure that we have a safe environment for people to come into. Ideally, we're trying to keep people outside of the VA to prevent any kind of risk exposure. Even from our services in pharmacy, we set up curbside pharmacy to hopefully continue to take care of our veterans, but also keep them safe.
Me, it's affected me that pretty much the entire eye clinic patients, except for those that really need to be seen, are being pushed out further. Appointments for 2-3 months down the road are filling up. Things are slowing down and getting quieter, and I'm being tasked to help other clinics if I have the time and ability.
I think we've definitely ramped up the screening. We did really well in the beginning with the screening process. Now we've even stepped that up even a step higher.
So I've been here since day one as far as the screening and everything is concerned. I was one of the first individuals to help set up the respiratory tent that's behind us. And I think it's going great. It's kind of been a learn as we go. We're learning every day. It seems like things are changing. We're very flexible and fluent in order to be on top of our game in order to protect ourselves and the veterans and or anybody coming in or out of the facility.
As we are coming in at our social distancing of a minimum of 3 to 6 feet, and we're watching each other do hand hygiene, we're watching each other answer the questions and check in, but we're also asking about each other's families and how we're doing in our work day, and that's where the community in our VA is happening to begin with, because we have a lot of teleworkers and we're not seeing each other as often during the day, but we do see each other as we check in, and so there's a lot of community there.
Well,
It changes daily. I think with the screening process.
We've streamlined the process a lot more in the past month, though, with the introduction of the green cards, for employees to tell us, how they're feeling and just to answer yes to all the questions. I think that we've been making progress, giving people masks, making them wear them within the facility.
Setting up the tents, and we started out in the foyer, now we're in tents.
Well, we're 100% screening every single person going through. I think it's cut down on keeping sick people out of the hospital. That's why we're here, is to help overflow the mobile for any sick people, veterans, employees coming through.
I would have to tend to agree with what Leslie has to say. Adding that, you know, we're in a different capacity doing this at this point because what we normally do and what we're currently doing are two separate things as far as these are more of the acute issues versus when we're out on the road, it's not quite as acute. So I feel it's a very good service that we're operating.
So I think in the beginning there was some skepticism in lots of people, including myself, about, you know, really what's required, is this really needed? And I think that over the last month that's really gone, that people have really engaged the whole task of trying to respond in a safe way to keep our veterans safe, to keep each other safe. I see people totally motivated. There was a task just came out yesterday about masks. Everybody has masks on today. Everyone is on board with this and ready to do whatever their piece is.
It's kind of been an evolution, you know, since, you know, about 30 days ago. Every day it seems like we learn something new, we add something on. You know, and at first, even I was kind of wondering, well, how long is this going to go on? You know, is this just going to be for a couple of days? Is this a week? And the more and more we saw things, you know, nationally, just all of us as American citizens, and then the information we were getting through the VA, we figured out pretty quick that this was going to be a longer haul situation. And so I think the staff and the veterans have done remarkably well with adapting to quick change and just kind of suiting up and rucking up and driving on, just like they did when they were on active duty.
So in the canteen, a lot of things have changed. We don't have the tables and chairs in the dining room right now. We have recently closed our fountain sodas. We have made it necessary for everybody to stand about 6 feet apart. We've limited the amount of people that are allowed into our canteen and even in our retail shop. Which has been a change. It's been kind of challenging at times, but it's the necessary precautions that we make in order to keep everybody healthy.
Our manning is drastically increased, and also the more people are aware of what we do, which is our folks have stepped up and shown that they are capable of dealing with the cleaning and the virus and that. We always struggled with trying to get 24-hour coverage of the facility, because even though the facility is 24 hours, we've always been from 7 to midnight, and now we do have 24-hour coverage and personnel to cover the full shifts. So
I really commend Cheyenne as far as being the first to do the screening, because I think we're the only actually state that, you know, is pretty low, and as far as you know, the death rate as well, we're doing really well. So I think they're really doing a really good job. From then till now, of course, you know, the president, they had the test sets that that was able to test COVID-19, and we knew that it was out there, but we just didn't get confirmation who was, actually confirmed tested. But once they started that, it went up. But as far as Cheyenne, it went up too, but not as much as, so I think we're doing really good. Main thing, we all work together and combat this thing to get through it.
Well, the protective measures that are being taken certainly slow down the morning, but it's important, and I think it's good that we're on top of it. And I think it gives a sense of security that there is an incident command and there's a protocol for how we manage ourselves personally and how we conduct ourselves and perform our jobs.
Initially, there was a lot of resistance. I was very involved in that process, from the security director aspect for the ICS that we've established here at the facility. There's a lot of resistance, a lot of questioning, a lot of, well, why are we doing this? It's really impeding my ability to get into work and take care of others. Now everybody's kind of come together and they have the understanding of what the purpose is behind it.
Well, it's a lot more steps. You got a lot more steps to do. I appreciate the precautions that we're taking to keep our veterans safe and to keep our employees safe, but it's a hassle. But it's what we got to do to keep everything to a minimum. So
everything has changed. Obviously, you see my new mask. I can't ride my motorcycle with this, but honestly, I think it's changed for the better. With being able to go from being screened and now wearing masks to protect the people that are in the facility, since we're at minimum remaining, I think it's changed for the best, to be honest with you.
People are more willing to accept being screened. They understand why we're doing it, and they understand the need for it. So they're more acceptable to the screenings. They're not questioning it every time. They come in, they stand there 6 feet apart, and they wait their turn. And it's wonderful.
As an individual, have to be more patient with people because this is all new and people are all stressed out about it. So we just have to put in our best to make sure that everything is working according to plan.
How has this event changed you and your family?
One of the biggest things is it's brought us together. My wife is home. The kids are home. They're not in school. It's been a really good thing as a family, like I mentioned earlier, to bring people together, have dinner together, sit down and talk as a family, do schoolwork and other fun activities, and play board games and do Legos. It's a family atmosphere, even more so now than it has been before this started.
We sit down at the dinner table almost every night as a family before this, and still currently do. It's changed us, and we're very thankful to be American. We're very thankful for things that we have, and that's just given us this time to kind of reflect that.
10 years ago when I started at the VA, I never would have thought about curbside pharmacy or wearing masks, just in day-to-day from pharmacy. But my family's pretty amazing. They're resilient. They kind of help guide me as I come to work every day. And even our kids, they're not in school, but they are in school. We've during their whole process, we've kind of kept their routines with them at night. They still pack their lunch, they pack their snacks for the day, and we get them all set up with their routine for schoolwork at home virtually for the next day.
I don't see my family. I have 2 grown daughters, and we are all essential personnel in our various jobs, and we're all possibly exposed in different ways. And because of that, we do our best to not see each other physically, because if one of us is exposed and the others are not, we try not to expose each other.
We stay in a lot more.
Yeah, we do. We stay in a lot more. I have a special needs child. He doesn't get to go to a lot of his therapies, so we're trying to do a lot of work from home with his therapies. We Zoom in some stuff to help with him, and
I've been having a lot more video chats with my friends.
Yeah, a lot more of that.
Not going over to their houses. My wife and I have been working on a lot of house projects, just kind of staying at home.
Yard work.
Yeah.
It's amazing the yard work you can get done in a day when you actually just sit and do it.
Absolutely.
We're definitely more aware of the things we're touching and the things we're doing and our surroundings and trying to stay, you know, away from each other, not as close.
I do have family members that live elsewhere that I have not been able to see on a regular basis, which is kind of hard. But at the same time, I'm doing it for the fact that because of my position, I can't be around them as much, and I'm trying to protect them.
I think my family and I are you know, we're doing more stuff at home, you know, just like everybody else is doing. Watching some old Disney movies and some new ones. Spend more time outdoors, you know, getting back to some of the basics. You know, going for a bike ride, you know, going out to the dog park, which is pretty cool because you got social distancing going on there anyway, and you get a little exercise, and it's a good time of the year. So just more, I guess, bringing things down to earth and making them simpler in all of our hectic lives.
For me and my family, it's more of awareness as far as what do we need to do at home. How can we stay safe at home? We come in different contact with different people all throughout both of our work experience for both me and my family, and so how can we not bring that into our homes? So it's even keeping it more sanitized at our house, and you know, wiping down everything, keeping everything very clean, and knowing the symptoms and reacting to those symptoms as well. So there's a lot more alertness.
Yeah, so my wife and I basically stay at home besides me coming to work. She actually is a private practice, so she moved her practice at home. So she doesn't really go anywhere. And yet now we actually talk with our children, our adult children, and our families a lot more than we did before because we're Zooming. You know, almost every night we Zoom with somebody and sometimes multiple people. So it's just a real change in the way we talk to people and think about people. And we do a lot less shopping. And yet I think it's more rewarding in many ways. So.
Keep checking in with them via FaceTime. So electronics and social media has been a wonder in these times. You know, my children play video games, so they do the online games. They're able to chat with their siblings and everything else.
Yeah, my mom and dad, I mean, both of them are 88 years old, so obviously it's a little scary. Just because of, you know, looking at the amount of people that die that are in that age group, it's a lot more than, you know, what would be in our age group. So I check in with them more often. Check in with my kids. I have one daughter that's her family are in Wheatland, and one daughter who her family are actually in Boston, Massachusetts. So we check in a lot faster, a lot more often.
I think the state of Wyoming's already has the social distancing down way before we become a state. So, you know, at home in Carpenter, I have 2 places, and my closest neighbor is a quarter-mile away. So, my folks and my wife's folks, they're taking this all in stride because, you know, they have gone through World War II and the depressions and such, so they're hanging in, like they're taking it in stride. It seems like the younger folks are the ones having more of an issue right now.
Wow, actually, we're closer because we're at home, you know. As far as my daughter, she loves playing sports, volleyball, but that's been on hold. But we're actually at home closer and, you know, doing more things as a family, playing games. I think we went through, oh man, I don't know how many board games, but my daughter's getting real good at Jenga. So it's been really fun. I mean, even though, you know, the negative about all the you know, the COVID-19, but the positive is, as a family, we're closer.
And I'm, you know, have a concern because my mother's 82, coming up on 83 shortly, and I get really concerned and worried about her in catching, you know, the virus.
The person it affected most is I have a physician daughter who works at a hospital every day. She's a surgeon, and I was surprised about how anxious this makes her, because her job, they've had to cancel a lot of surgery. She has to be available to take care of COVID patients. She's a mother of 2 young children. Her husband's a physician too. So the stress levels are enormous. And I think generally for the rest of the family, the anxiety's up.
Well, there's been no more date night. I mean, everything's shut down. It's pretty much just go home and work right now, so, you know, that's about it.
My wife is super anxious. She's nervous. And I'm not afraid. I'm not going to let it stop me from doing what I do. But I do take precautions, you know. With my family and everything, I would rather get it. If I had a choice, I would rather have it than my family to get it.
My sister, she has COPD, so I have not seen my sister since this has all started because I don't want to take anything to her. As far as me, I'm a hugger. I can't give hugs every time I turn around now, so I get virtual hugs. But so keeping the distance is the hardest part.
Because in the family, people are now made to stay at home, and for many people, some members of the family, it's not easy for them to be at a place, but it's a very big challenge, but we gotta do what we gotta do to make sure that everybody is safe.
How will COVID-19 change the way you work in the VA once all this passes?
I think that we will see an increased awareness of physical and personal infection prevention. I also think that we will have a further awareness of public health.
Oh gosh, I've thought about this a lot in regards to, is the handshake obsolete anymore? Are we going to be bumping elbows or kicking heels or any of that anymore? I don't know. I hope that doesn't completely change a culture, a practice that we've had for a long time. But we'll see.
You'll be much more aware of if I me personally, if I have a cough or I'm just not feeling quite right. I sanitize my hands a lot more. If I touch anything a patient gives me, I'll make sure my hands are clean before I do anything else.
Well, I think as an emergency nurse, you're going to see a lot stricter, stepped up PPE process and screening process as they come into the facility. I think we're going to be a little more cautious on these respiratory illnesses that come in, and have to figure out what we're going to do for our COPD patients and how we're going to prevent any sort of respiratory viral bug from going around in the future.
I think this COVID-19 is going to change our country. This is something that our country, the majority of our country, has never seen. We haven't seen something like this since World War II, where we are having to ration and having to distance, and it's a big time, it's a big change for our country, and I think it's going to change a lot of things.
Man, I think that it'll change the way that we streamline our processes for what we actually make our veterans come in for and what we can achieve with them being at their home. I think that it'll bring to the forefront of everybody's mind just
The outlook on how quick something can change and how quick something can take over, really. That's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah, thinking more about washing hands, sterile technique, covering your cough. You know, maybe instead of coming into work when you have just a minor cold, maybe just stay home.
I think that it'll be a positive thing. I believe that there are a lot of people working from home now that weren't before. Maybe we'll be cleaner, more aware of, you know, hand washing and things like that.
Now that we are in a pandemic, you find out what resources work and what doesn't work, and I think you take that opportunity and apply it to other things in the future, whether it be working from home, you know, more recognition for viruses that are out there and stuff like that, as far as the scientific world, as well as the health aspect.
More telehealth.
That too.
So I don't think it's going to change. I mean, there's going to be a new norm that we're going to have to adjust to. We're adjusting to a new norm right now, and it's going to even be different when everything is back up running on our new norm. So it's trying to figure out how to adapt to that, and then, you know, just kind of really go from there. So it's not really going to change much. It's just we got to be prepared for it.
You know, it really isn't going to change the way I work in the VA a whole lot. I'm your emergency manager, so my job is to prepare the facility for stuff like this. I think my focus is going to adjust a little bit more towards the high consequence infection plan and making sure that we do have adequate stockages of PPE. I think I will work a lot closer with my counterparts in the other VAs in the visit, just to make sure that if they don't have something and I do, that we cross-level it before something like this happens. Just to make sure that we're all as prepared as we possibly can.
Not at all, because we tell everybody to keep your distance and wash your hands when you're done working, so, and don't touch your face.
Really, it's changed because here at BDSL, we promote teamwork. Well, if everybody's at home, if everything's done through the computers, and with systems being slow, or people of the older ages not having internet, it makes it difficult. But we try to keep a balance here. We don't want anybody to feel afraid or be afraid. We would rather everyone to be calm, cautious, because you have veterans that come in scared, and if you're scared, you're both scared, and that's not what we want here.
It'll make me more appreciative of the things the VA does do for us. And we're so intense right now, it'll be more of a relaxed and appreciated atmosphere again. And that's what I've always liked about the VA. They do appreciate you, they do tell you. So
we have to be more conscious about keeping everywhere clean. Sanitary condition has to be higher than what it used to be, and it has taught me patience, more patience than I used to be.
Well, it's going to change on different levels. Now, our team of 3, 2 of the team is going to be working from home. Because I reside close by, I intend to continue to work out of the VA. It's a time for important increased communication within the suicide prevention team, but with all providers, mental health and medical. I think I've been more aware of working cooperatively with my coworkers, because this is a time we need to be pleasant, hopeful, helpful with one another.
Well, I hope everybody will continue to keep their hand hygiene up. I mean, we never know exactly when this is gonna be done, and who knows, maybe when we think it's done, it could pop back up. So, I mean, hopefully everybody will just stay hand washing, hand hygiene, sanitizing, you know, just keep cautious about it.
I think this has really pushed our ability to be flexible and to pivot for any problem that comes up. It also, I think, has built our confidence, certainly built my confidence that we can pivot very quickly. And the whole organization, even the most bureaucratic parts of the organization, can become flexible when they need to. So it's been very impressive to see how our hospital leadership has pivoted, how people who are governed by paperwork have given up some of their requirements, knowing what we need to do. It's made me feel very proud of being part of the VA.
I think, and I'm hopeful, what we're going to see is a quicker way from going to point A to point B on all kinds of business, because we're doing it now. We're seeing where when things, regulations are kind of relaxed, people have a sense of urgency. They don't worry about the small stuff as much and just get to the heart of the matter and get business done. That's happening right now, and I think when this is over, people are going to see the benefit of that, especially staff, and they're going to say, "Hey, listen, when we were doing the COVID-19, we were able to get this and this and this done like really quick. Why can't we do that now?" They're not going to accept status quo before, taking months or 6 months or a year, for example, to get a project through and approved, where we've made modifications to our PACU in 2 weeks. And so people they're noticing that, and they're liking it, and they're gonna demand that, I think, afterwards. And I certainly am.
What would you tell your grandchildren in 20 years?
Yeah, it's interesting. I always wanted to. I didn't have the benefit of knowing my grandparents. They passed along well before I was born. But if I would have had that opportunity, I would have asked them, "Hey, what was it like in the Roaring '20s? And then what was it like going from the Roaring '20s into the Great Depression, and having to adjust there, and then live through the Great Depression, and then come out of it, and of course, go through World War II and that whole era, just going from prosperity to disparity, back to a sense of mission, and what was that like?" And so that's, I think, what I would ask. But in a weird way, in a different place and time, we might be going through the same thing here, going from a heightened sense of prosperity, to something that gives you reason to pause and a little shock and awe, and then see how the country comes out of it on the other end. So in a weird way, I think I'm kind of living a little bit of that in this day and age.
I think we just gotta stand together, stay strong, and we'll get through this. We'll hope that they come up with a vaccine and we'll all be good.
I think the United States of America is very strong. I think this is going to make us stronger, and I'm proud to be American.
Just, be smart. Just, social distancing is not something to be afraid of. It's just more of a precaution to keep your loved ones and people you care about safe. And we just don't want a mass history to repeat itself like back in Spanish flu or years before that, and just be wise and be careful of what you're doing so you don't risk your health or anybody else's.
I don't know, we're gonna continue to do our best, and we're gonna continue to try and do what's best for the veterans and what's best for the employees. And yeah, we'll together, I think that we'll all get through this.
I'm just trying to be positive to our veterans that are coming in, to our employees. Just trying to stay positive and upbeat. So.
That too, I mean, because I know there's a lot of veterans that are kind of scared of what's going on, because this is something, I mean, they've gone through a lot worse stuff than we have, you know, stories that they won't tell, but I'm sure this also adds to that fear too. So, I mean, they've handled a lot of things, they've seen a lot of things. This is something new that they may not have any type of control over. So yeah, we try to be that positive so for them.
It's actually just telling them what happened, how we reacted to it, how we were able to adapt to all the different changes, and really in the end, what was the end result and how did we survive it?
You know, hey, it's great working as part of this team. I love being in Wyoming, born and raised here. So, and being at the VA, well, it might not be like coming home. It's kind of like going to your favorite uncle's house.
How everyone came together to work against this pandemic here in Cheyenne. I think the VA did a really good job. I've seen a lot of people as far as teamwork is really good, you know. And I think people will look back and say, you know, we did a really good job, this VA. Everybody came together, you know, worked hard and got through it.
Being grateful for what I have in my life, you know, and the whole thing with toilet paper, you know, still don't get that. Clorox wipes and all that stuff, but toilet paper, I don't get. So, yeah, and why the shelves aren't full, you know, still haven't figured that one out either. You know, it's, for me, it's changed how we see things and how, I interact with people, you know, with that, and also the observances around me for social distancing, because people aren't practicing that like at Walmart. Yeah. I am doing the ultimate best I can, but other people aren't doing that, and I'm going, this is really serious, what we have going on, so.
Well, I'm anticipating some things. It's very important in suicide prevention to anticipate what any given circumstance is going, or how it's going to affect people. And so already I'm thinking ahead that lives are going to be lost, hopefully not many, but crisis intervention, debriefing, grief counseling are really important roles right now. I hope to be able to look back and say, boy, it was kind of an unpleasant time, but that I made a positive difference. I think that makes a good thing out of a less than positive thing.
Well, nationally, I feel that everybody's afraid. I feel everybody's afraid. When you see people, nurses posting on Facebook about how scared they are, it puts kind of a panic on you when you see the people that are doing the healthcare panicking. But at the same time, it wasn't my hospital that I seen someone panic from, and I think if we didn't have such a handle on it here, things would be more in a chaos, but I think we've handled it pretty well here in Cheyenne, so nobody's really just flipped their top, but in other places I understand that they are. And it's scary to think that, that we could possibly, that could migrate into here and rioting or, anything like that could possibly start. So, I mean, it's scary. So I just hope that we keep a handle on it and people get back to work soon and, nobody flips out.
Really, to be honest with you, if I had to add anything, it'd be to talk to your supervisors, talk to whomever you need to. 31 days ago, nobody knew all this was going to happen like this. But if you feel anxious and you need answers, talk to your supervisors. Me personally, I go to Ken and Mel. And that's who I talk to, especially if I'm feeling anxious or nervous.
Not necessarily, because when all this is over, I know that even now that it is not over yet, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, and when this is over, I intend to keep or improve more on what I have learned during this process.
It does, remind me of that there's been traumatic and disruptive things in the past, the Civil War. I had relatives who were involved in that, in the Spanish flu, which killed millions of people, and I think I totally misunderstood what it maybe it was like to have your life so disrupted by something that it's not clear where this is going. I guess I would have talked to them about it and what that was like. They never brought up some of their experiences in the Great Depression or things like that. I think I've gotten a better appreciation for times that we're trying for our country and for our relatives. But
today, I probably couldn't think of anything. I keep saying it, preparation. I guess, and this kind of goes back to the first question where we're talking about an event that took place, the Depression. We're kind of in that situation where, if you're not prepared when something like this happens, how do you continue to fulfill your, sustain your lifestyle, if you will. If you don't have that preparation, this is what could happen. One of the things I've talked to my children about is, if this would have happened back when I was a child, we would have had this, we would have had that. These are the activities that we would have had. We wouldn't have had the social media. We wouldn't have had all these electronics and different things, because that's what a lot of the children are, lifestyle is electronics. That's their life, which is great for the school aspect now, because they're able to do that, those items. But if we didn't work hard for where we are and didn't prepare, it would make things a lot tougher. So just be prepared. I'm not saying always think the worst, but at the same time always be well aware that this is the possibility. It's not something you would expect, so it's something, basically expect the unexpected if you